ever decided you wanted to visit the city of brotherly love, the city of Philadelphia, what might be some of the highlights, the things that you would want to go and see? It's a famous place. We're celebrating the 250th anniversary of independence, 1776, 2026. So you might want to go and see the Liberty Bell, or Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was forged and signed. Maybe you'd go to the Betsy Ross House and see where the first flag, American flag, was designed and developed. Maybe you go to a Phillies game. That's where I'd be. Go see the Phillies, or walk along the waterfront on Delaware Avenue. But almost all people, despite all the historical stuff, almost everyone who visits the city of Philadelphia, particularly the first time, always goes to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And most of the people that go to the Philadelphia Museum of Art go there not because they love art. Most of them don't even go inside the doors. They go to run up the stairs in front of the Philadelphia Museum of Art so that they can go at the top and put their hands in the air like Rocky did all those years ago. No matter how, I've seen some people go very slowly up those stairs, and still, when they get to the top, it's jubilation. This may be hard or difficult, painful for some of us to believe, but this year marks the 50th anniversary of that film coming out, the first Rocky coming out. Yeah, I know. That hurts. 50 years of Rocky Balboa kind of taking on parts of our culture. I mean, he's still iconic in Philly. We're in this sermon series called Pushing Through the Dirt, finding hope in the storms of life. And I believe that some of the essence, some of the feeling that's generated through these Rocky films actually is what we're experiencing, what we need to understand as well. Like, what is it about him? If you've seen any of the films, you know that here's this underdog, someone who we didn't expect to achieve much, to amount to much, gets a chance, a little chance, perseveres through difficulties and hardships, and survives, not only survives, but becomes a champion. Now, if you watch the films, you know that there's always a part in any of the films, and there's a whole lot of them. He just kept making them. Most of them aren't very good. But he's in the ring, getting the snot beat out of him. It's terrible. It's gruesome. He is bloodied, battered, bruised. He can't see. He can't speak. He's wobbly on his feet. He keeps getting knocked down and just crawling up the ropes. And yet, in the midst of all that, for some unknown reason, he stands there and says, "Come on, keep bringing it. Keep punishing me. Keep hitting me." He's crazy. Nobody in their right mind wants that kind of punishment. Nobody says, "Beat me, hurt me, give me pain," even if they think the result might be triumph or success. Nobody wants that. And yet, there's something about that. There's something about the struggle and the difficulty and the challenge and the pain and the anguish that actually leads to something. See, if we came to faith, if we decided we were deciding to be a disciple of Jesus and thought that by becoming a disciple of Jesus, that meant that my life was going to get easier, that things would be simple, that I would just glide through life because I'm on Team Jesus, and then challenges come, we might be left questioning. Like, where is God? I thought this was supposed to work out differently. Why is this so difficult? Has God abandoned me? We may even kind of question our own faith or belief, like maybe God isn't real after all, but that's not true. I mean, think about Jesus and the life that Jesus lived. We don't have any record, really, of Joseph, his earthly father, after the Christmas story. So most scholars assume that Joseph died at some point while Jesus was young. Jesus experienced incredible grief and loss of someone that was dear to him. And then think about all that he went through during his ministry. He understood hunger, absolute exhaustion, betrayal, loneliness, grief, sorrow, all the same things that you and I experience in life from time to time. Being the Son of God did not mean that he did not experience life as we experience life. Paul is writing to the church in Corinth, and he's saying similar things. He's saying we are in these jars of clay, like these earthen vessels, something similar, something simple and not beautiful or grandiose. It's just, an everyday use kind of jar. He's communicating to the church in Corinth that these challenges, these difficulties, we should expect them. And so there's this paradox. He's going back and forth. Listen to what he said. He said, we are, put these on so I can actually see. We're afflicted in every way. Another translation says we are surrounded by troubles. We're perplexed. Perplexed means we wonder, we have questions. God, are you still in this? Why is this happening? We're feeling deep questions. We're persecuted. Given a hard time, a challenging time for what we believe and how we're conducting ourselves and how we're living. We're struck down. It's difficult. Later, in 2 Corinthians, a couple chapters later, in chapter 11, he reminds us again all the things that he went through. Listen to this list. 11:24. He says, 5 times I have received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1. That was the law. You could only have 39 lashes because they believed that the 40th lash would bring death. So they bring you right to the point of what they thought your body could handle. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I received a stoning. 3 times I was shipwrecked for a night and a day, and I was adrift at sea. On frequent journeys in danger from rivers, and danger from bandits, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers and sisters, in toil and hardship through many a sleepless night, hungry and thirsty, often without food, cold and naked. These are all the things that I've gone through, all the challenges I have faced. Why am I harping on about these difficulties, these challenges? Because if the Son of God, and then the Apostle Paul, who gives us the bulk of our understanding, interpretation of the Gospels, if they lived lives of challenge and difficulty, if they had storms in their life, consistency through life, why would we expect ours to be any different? That's part of life. In fact, Paul is actually saying that it's those storms, it's those challenges that bring the triumph of Jesus to clarity, that people actually see what's happening. You say, those storms don't define us. Paul is writing to the church in Corinth and then to the entire church. He's basically saying, yes, those things are real. Hardship, persecution, loss, grief. There's no magic divine pixie dust that's going to eliminate those things. He's writing against the teaching of triumphalism. Triumphalism is actually a theology that is found in much of the Western church, particularly Western churches like ours, those with people that look like me. Nothing really wrong with triumphalism. Triumphalism celebrates the victory of Jesus, recognizes the power of God to redeem. But we come to worship in that triumphalist kind of theology to be energized, to be reminded how good God is. We want to be heard a pep talk, encouraged, to leave feeling prepared to face whatever difficulties I may face during the week. Now, our African American brothers and sisters have a very different theology. Their theology is one of lament. And they express emotion and devotion and worship to God in the midst of difficulties and challenges because of their history. Generations enslaved, further generations oppressed through the Jim Crow South. They understand that God remains real even in the context of difficulty and oppression. That's why it's so important that we meet with one another, that we worship together, that we serve alongside each other. We need each other to broaden our perspective, our understanding of who God is. So here's Paul writing to this church in Corinth, reminding them that you will face difficulties. This is normal, but look what he writes. We're pressed on every side by troubles, he says. We're surrounded by troubles, but we're not crushed. We're perplexed. We have all kinds of questions about what's going on and why it's going on like this. But we're not driven to despair. We're not despairing. We retain hope. We're hunted down. People are chasing after us to keep us from speaking and declaring the gospel, but we're not abandoned. We get knocked down, but we're not destroyed. He has this paradox. The things that we thought might destroy us are unable to destroy us because of the triumph of Jesus. But the victory of Jesus is really only evidenced in our lives in the midst of those struggles. The storms in life are actually necessary. Think about it. If we didn't have any storms, difficulties, trials in life, we would just cruise through and likely think, I must be doing this right. Everything's going great for me. My family's all in order. My job is great. My finances are all together. I have no loss, no pain, no difficulty. I don't know what all those people are fussing about. They just need to live like I live. I got it right. That's what Paul's writing against. He's saying those people who are communicating those things to you, that this ideology, this kind of understanding of what it means to be victorious in God is not right. the triumph, the victory isn't only found in good things. The blessings of God are not just life going easy for me. The blessings of God oftentimes are only really experienced in the difficulty, in the darkness. That God remains present and alive even in those times when we're wondering, when we're doubting, when we're perplexed, when we feel like we're surrounded. I read this in preparation and I thought it made sense. Paul says this is the struggle. The struggle is necessary for growing. When a person has the conviction that what is happening to them is happening literally for Christ's sake, we can face anything. In fact, those with the triumphalist understanding, they were talking in the church in Corinth and continue to speak the same thing today. They talk about strength without weakness. But Paul talks about weakness through which the strength of Christ is at work. Triumphalists talk about deliverance by miracle. It just happened. But Paul talks about the endurance by which the deliverance of Christ is experienced. Triumphalists talk about healing where suffering is escaped. But Paul talks of the servant Jesus. Jesus that produces life for those he cares for, and he suffers on their behalf. The triumph of Jesus does not really become evident in our lives without the storms, until the storms. What does this mean for us? First of all, we need to understand, realize that those things, the storms of life, are normal. If Paul and Jesus experienced them, then so will we. Why can we have hope in the midst of them? Because God demonstrated faithfulness in the life of Jesus, in the life of Paul, and many of our lives and difficulties in the past, and that encourages us that God remains faithful in the future. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to stick on a fake smile and pretend the difficulties aren't real. In fact, we gather together, we meet together, we have small groups together, we pray together so that we can be open and honest with one another, so that we can encourage one another when things are difficult, when questions are deep, when darkness surrounds us. We have brothers and sisters who are there to walk with us arm in arm and say, God continues to be with you. I am with you. The Spirit of God resides in me, and I am alongside of you. We trust in those moments because God is faithful, and the triumph of Jesus becomes evident in those difficult times. Listen to these words once again. We're pressed on every side by troubles, but we're not crushed. We're perplexed. We have all kinds of questions, but we're not driven to complete despair. We're hunted down, but we're never abandoned by God. We might get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. What have you been saying for the past several weeks? Every seed struggles in the soil before it stands in the sun. Struggle is part of the journey, but it's an opportunity to demonstrate the triumph of God through the life and resurrection of Jesus. That's the power that Paul is communicating to all of us. That's the power that resides within us that we need for our own understanding, that we're not crushed, but that we need to communicate to a weary world. Amen.